planned a surprise date for my wife, only to discover her cheating with a stranger. So, a couple of weeks back, I got this idea to surprise my wife with a kid-free night out. My parents live about an hour and a half away, so I arranged for the kids to stay with them for the weekend. Usually, when I go to my parents' place, I stay there the whole day and leave around dinner time. But this time, I planned to drop the kids off and head straight back home to surprise my wife so we could go out as soon as possible. I even made reservations at a nice restaurant and thought we could hit a few bars for drinks first. I left around 8:30 and was back in our neighborhood before 12:30. As I pulled onto our street, I noticed a truck parked in front of our house. I didn't recognize it, but I figured it must belong to someone visiting a neighbor. It happens all the time. So, I parked a few houses away, thinking I'd sneak in and surprise my wife quietly. Instead of using the garage, I went in through the basement door, trying to be as stealthy as possible. As soon as I got inside, I heard some noises from the floor above. At first, I thought my wife was just relaxing by herself, maybe having some personal time. I didn't want to embarrass her, so I was about to head back to my car and make some noise with the garage door to announce I was home. But then, I heard a man's voice. My heart immediately sank, and I felt like I was going to explode. It's hard to describe the feeling, but it was gut-wrenching. I decided to head upstairs. I didn't want to confront them or anything, I just needed to see what was going on. Moving slowly and quietly, I made my way up. The door was halfway open and the kitchen was empty, but it was obvious they were in the living room. The sounds made it clear what was happening. I couldn't see into the living room without being spotted, so I pulled out my phone, opened the camera app, and stuck it around the corner. Seeing my wife with some guy I didn't recognize was devastating. I won't go into graphic details, but you get the idea. I started recording, thinking I'd need proof for whatever I decided to do later. I just stood there, frozen, watching it all unfold on my phone screen, feeling like I might scream any second. After several minutes, she finally got off him and mentioned going to the bedroom. They went upstairs, and she even commented on how much time they had left. I went into the living room, found the guy's pants, and took pictures of his driver's license from his wallet. Now, I knew his name and address, though I had no clue who he was or how my wife knew him. Leaving the house the same way I came in, I went back to my car and broke down in tears. Feeling utterly pathetic, I watched the video to make sure it had recorded everything. I sat in my car for what felt like half an hour, unable to drive back to my parents' place and explain anything. I decided to go home, make some noise with the garage, and pretend I was just there to surprise her. Taking my time, I eventually got inside, made a lot of noise, and found her flustered, asking why I was home early. She was in a robe, claiming she was prepping for a bath. When I told her about my surprise plans, she seemed excited. She poured us some wine, suggesting we pre-game before heading out. I barely talked and felt horrible when she led me into the living room. I could faintly see the guy sneaking downstairs and out through the basement, but I didn't say or do anything. I just let my wife continue as if nothing had happened. Since then, I've watched the video repeatedly, unable to decide what to do next. She's sensed something's off and asked if I'm okay, but I feel worthless and keep watching the video to torture myself. A few things not to do. Don't seek revenge. It'll only hurt you more, and don't let her hurt you again. I've spent hours looking up this guy and considering my options, and as for his truck and pants, I guess she panicked and hid his clothes when she heard the garage. Update as of July 13th, 2024. I stopped watching the video after reading all the advice from my first post. It's helped clear my mind, and I'm focusing on my kids and job. I checked my wife's phone and found nothing suspicious. I even figured out the guy's a landscaper she hired months ago. I've been avoiding alone time with her to dodge awkward convos and don't want to be intimate. I slipped up once when I drank too much, but I don't think she's seen him since I caught them. We still do family things, and I've installed a doorbell camera to keep an eye on the street. She didn't comment on that. Now, she's planning a night out with a work friend? I don't know. I made up an excuse about work, so she had to get a neighbor to babysit. I'm debating whether to follow her to see if she's really meeting her friend or that guy. Looks like I've got some decisions to make. So, I was dreading any type of confrontation because all I really wanted was for things to just go back to normal. I decided to leave the house soon and pretend I was heading to work, but I was actually planning to kill time at a bar until I could swing by the place she said she'd be. I was filled with dread about the whole situation. Update 2, July 20th, 2024. I've gotten so many messages asking how I'm doing, so I figured it was time for an update. On the night she was supposed to go out with her friend, I pretended I had to work and left after the babysitter showed up. I hit up a bar, had a few drinks, and then drove over to the restaurant she mentioned. I spotted her car in the parking lot and, not gonna lie, I was super nervous. I hoped to sneak in unnoticed, but she saw me the moment I walked in. She was with her friend, not the guy. We had the usual, "What are you doing here? Thought you were working?" chat. I told her my shift ended early and I just wanted to stop by and say hi since we had a babysitter. After a couple of drinks, I went home to relieve the sitter. So many of you told me to confront her, and I decided then and there that I would. I couldn't hold it in any longer. After putting the kids to bed, I waited for her to come home. I watched the video again to remind myself of what I'd seen. When she got home, she immediately sensed something was up. I let it all out. I didn't even let her sit down. I played part of the video and told her everything. I called her some pretty harsh names and said she ruined our lives. I was furious. She was extremely upset, crying and shaking. She said she felt horrible about everything and confessed that she cheated twice after the time I saw them together. She claimed she cut it off because she realized it was wrong and loves me. I asked for proof, but she said she had already deleted and blocked him on her phone and social media. She told me that the guy knew she was married. She wanted me to delete the video, but I refused. She got a bit angry and asked if I was keeping it to watch again. We decided to go to bed and talk more the next day. We slept separately that night. In the following days, things seemed a bit better between us. There was some relief now that everything was out in the open. We kept talking and it felt like we were on a path to staying together and moving past it. I made it clear she was never to see or talk to that guy again. While things are improving, I'm still struggling to trust her. Worse yet, I have an upcoming work trip and I'll be gone for a few days. I told her I wasn't comfortable leaving, but my boss insisted I go. She suggested setting up cameras in the house to ease my mind, and I might actually do that. Overall, things are okay. The kids have no idea anything is going on. It feels like my wife and I are slowly getting back to normal. I hope so, at least. I'm a bit ashamed to admit that I've watched the video a few times since. I'm thinking about deleting it, but I don't know what's stopping me. Comments. Flynn. JM, I remember your first post. Did she explain how things escalated from yard work to him being in your bed? What happened? OOP. Yeah, she did. The guy came to the door to wash his hands and they started chatting. He came back to finish up some work and they talked again. They already had each other's numbers and exchanged some texts. She made up more work for him so he'd come out a third time, and that's when the cheating happened. Now, on to story 2. So, my hubby John, 25M, and I, 26F, have been married for over 2 years and dated for about 3 years before that. We generally have a healthy relationship with good communication. When we first got married, we went on dates a lot, even if it was just for coffee or a drive. As time went on, I took on more freelance work, making me busier. John started saying he was too tired to go out after work or on his days off, and I didn't have a problem with it because he does work a lot. But recently things have changed. A couple of months ago, John got really into digital marketing and selling products online. He bought an expensive course and started posting 3 times a day on a new Instagram account to build a following. He's putting in a lot of effort. And while I have my doubts about its success, I've never discouraged him. I always encourage and tell him how proud I am of all his hard work. Last week, we went on a cute date after he got off work on Saturday and had a great time. While we were out, I came up with a cute idea for a reel that took only 5 minutes to record. I posted it later and added him as a collaborator on his new account. It did great, better than his other posts, thanks to my slightly larger following. Now he wants to go on small dates every Saturday to get content for his page. At first I was thrilled because I missed our regular dates. But then he asked if I could be a collaborator on the posts so he'd get credit for the engagement, even though I'd be making the posts. I feel hurt because he ignored my requests for dates for over a year, and now he wants to go out just to get content for his page. So, he wants to go on dates, but honestly, I'm feeling pretty used and like, I'm not a priority. Feels like these dates don't even count as real dates because he's not asking me out to spend quality time together. I want to make it clear that I'm totally okay with him doing this side gig and even helping out with the content, but I'd rather not do it every week, you know? I'm actually super happy that he's diving into something that excites him, whether or not it turns into a money-making venture. I haven't seen him this pumped about anything, like ever. I'm asking for advice because I'm not sure if I should bring this up with him, and if I do, what should I say? The last thing I want is to make him feel bad or rain on his parade. Should I just be grateful we're going on dates again, or am I being selfish? Any advice would be awesome, and sorry if this is long. Quick edit. For those getting hung up on the double standard of me making content on our dates but not wanting him to, let me clarify. I'm not a content creator. I asked him if he'd want to do this fun thing with me, and he said yes. It's not a regular thing as I hardly post. For me, it was just a fun activity. For him, it's work, and that's the difference in my head. Maybe it doesn't matter, but that's how I see it. Shout out to Grapefruit 4297 who pointed out that he's basically trying to support his MLM business by going out with me rather than valuing our time together. That really stings. I get it, and I'm sorry. These MLMs are super high pressure and make people feel responsible for failing, even though the setup is designed that way. They use cult-like tactics to prey on people. I think I should talk to him about my feelings, but tread lightly because the system is designed to make him defensive. Update, August 20th, 2024. First off, thanks to all of you who were kind and logical. Here's what I ended up doing. Many of you suggested taking the win and finding the good in the situation, but if it's really bothering me, to talk to John. I didn't want to be upset on every date, so I gave it a trial run for 2 weeks and then decided to mention it to him. For those who think I'm being dramatic or hard to please, I told him I wasn't sure how I felt was his intention, but explained what I was thinking. Sure enough, he was just trying to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. I told him I was fine creating content but didn't want to feel like that was the only reason we were on a date. He understood and promised to be careful about it. He said if I was bothered or wanted a no-content date, to just let him know. The next part was a bit tougher. With advice from some of you with digital marketing or MLM experience, I had the tough pyramid scheme talk. I told him I'd support him no matter what he chooses to do, but explained how misleading the marketing is, how most people lose money, and how they'll keep pushing him to spend more to make it work. I suggested he track his hours of learning, creating content, and posting, so even if he starts making sales, he can decide if it's worth the time. I probably mentioned more, but that's what I remember. I've always been anti-MLM and like to think I know a lot about it, so I tried to be kind and informative. I also made it clear that if he wanted to keep trying, I'd support it as long as he doesn't invest more money before he starts making some. I told him how proud I am of his hard work and how it's got him all energized and motivated. He's up early working out and actually doing the workouts, which I love. Understandably, he was a bit sad and quiet, but totally got it and wasn't mad. This was all last night, and he was back to normal before bed. He's still posting today, so I guess I didn't hurt his feelings or discourage him like I worried. I'm looking forward to our weekly dates and the fact we'll have videos to remember them. Thanks again for all the kind words, and feel free to ask questions. Just be nice.